How's it going, everyone? Yosef back here with another video, and I hope you're having an amazing week so far. Today we have the 2025 Polestar 3 dual motor with the performance pack. And I am so excited to show you this vehicle because today we are going to answer the question of, well, if you were looking for a luxury compact SUV that's electric, that has a bit of personality, is this the best one for you? Or is it just another one of those run-of-the-mill dreary electric SUVs? Well, today we're gonna find out. But before we get into the video, if you're new to the channel, my name is Yosef and I happen to be a car enthusiast with 3 kids, and I used to sell cars in the past. So if you're interested in my perspective, please subscribe. All right, now on with the video. First of all, I wanna give a huge shout out to the team at Polestar of Coral Gables here in South Florida, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have this beautiful Polestar 3. So thank you so much to them, but more on that at the end of the video. Okay, so let's talk Polestar 3. Now, I know there are a lot of you out there that have never even heard of Polestar. What is this brand? Where is it from? Why should I care about it? Well, Polestar is a Swedish company, and back in 1996, it was a racing team in Sweden, and over time, Volvo has decided, you know what? We are going to adopt that name for our performance vehicles. It's going to be the top trim of our vehicles, and it's very similar to what BMW has done with the M division or Mercedes with AMG. It's their performance tuning sort of group. But in 2017, Polestar decided, you know what, we're gonna break off and be our own brand. We are gonna create really cool, funky electric vehicles. And so they did. Fast forward to today, we've got the new Polestar 3, and it's an amazing vehicle. But the question is it any good? Should it be worth your attention? And is it the type of electric vehicle that will add a little personality to your life? Or is it gonna be just a normal, dreary electric vehicle like any other on the road? Well, let's find out. All right, so let's start by talking about the pricing. And well, the Polestar 3 in the United States, because that's where I am today, it starts with a basic sort of single motor long range model just under $60,000 US, about 57.7, and that gives you about 350 miles of range with a 299 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque electric motor. But if you want to go up and grab all the power and performance as well as all the really cool features, you can spend upwards of $80,000 for the dual motor long range and with the performance pack, and that gives you over 517 horsepower and over 600 pound-feet of torque, which is quite a lot for a vehicle of this size. But one cool thing to mention about the performance of the vehicle is you get a sticker on the side showing everyone that you got the expensive one or maybe the less expensive one, but it's cool that it shows you that. So let's talk about styling, and I have to say the Polestar 3 looks great. It has a lot of Volvo in the design, and you can definitely tell that they are related brands. But if you take a look at the Polestar 3's overall design, it has a lot of unique character to it, and it looks exciting. It's got a little bit of, I don't know, personality to it that you just don't get in some other electric vehicles, because, you know, a lot of electric vehicles, they're sort of designed by wind tunnels and dictated by efficiency and stuff like that, and it seems like Polestar has kind of rewritten the book over here, because if you take a look at it, it looks like a normal vehicle, but when you take a look up close, you'll notice that there are some special unique design features that give it some aero and look really, really cool, that set it apart from almost any other vehicle on the road, namely this really interesting front wing. It's something I've never seen before. Only Formula One cars have a front wing, but on your Polestar 3, you've got one functional over here, which is very cool. And if you take a look lower down, you also have some functional aero down here as well. These slats will open and close depending on how much cooling the batteries need when you're driving around. And you've got a very flat front fascia here, but a lot of design elements to them. The lights kind of have that Thor's hammer look to them like you get on the Volvos, and there's so much detail in the headlights and the turn signals, and you've got a lot of little creases and scoops and recessed sections over here. It just has a lot of character, even though this is a relatively flat looking front end. And the story continues, which is very similar on the side profile of it. You've got some really nice swooping curves going around the vehicle, but you also have some jagged, sharper edges at the bottom and some styling with that cladding that looks really, really cool. And if you look at the wheels, we've got a very cool feature here as well. Not only do the wheels look really nice, and obviously they are massive rims, but you've got these Brembo brakes, which allow you to have all that stopping power with this performance pack. And you'll know it's the performance pack because you've got these little gold valve stems and you've got the gold painted brake calipers. So that's how you know you're in the special one, and it contrasts so nicely with the silver and black rims. Another really cool thing to note about the Polestar 3 is you've got these relatively normal looking side mirrors, but what you wouldn't notice is that the entire mirror actually moves when you adjust the mirrors from the interiors. So it's not just the mirror itself that moves when you adjust it, the entire capsule actually moves along when you adjust. So it's a unique feature that no one probably would even notice or care about, but for me it's unique and I love these little details. That is really cool. On the side of the Polestar 3, you'll notice that we've got these interesting door handles. They sit out when the door is unlocked, but when it's locked, they sit flush with the body panel, which looks really cool. It's a nice way to change it up and do something a little bit different. Moving to the back of the Polestar 3, you'll notice that you've got a lot of design back here too. I love the way the roof line sort of swoops back in over here, and it almost looks like the windows are kind of pinching back into the back end over here, and the taillights very much resemble a Volvo model with them kind of going up the top over here, even though that's just the black plastic that goes around it. But it does look very cool, modern, and it's also very clean. There aren't too many design elements back here that kind of disrupt the clean look back here. The only thing that's a little bit odd that kind of is a questionable design is having this little piece of plastic that juts out over here. Maybe what it does is just kind of help smooth the air coming around to make it a bit more aerodynamic, but it is an interesting looking thing to stick out the side. Otherwise though, I really love the taillight design of the Polestar 3. You have a little detail in here where it says Polestar, and that lights up when the car is on, and it looks really cool. Of course, you've got a light bar going across, which adds a little bit more drama over here, and there are these little lines that go through as part of the design, but overall, very nice, very clean looking. The one thing that I really wish they would have done is just hide that rear wiper. It would have been nice to tuck that in under the spoiler, but I think the reason why they didn't do that is it's a functional spoiler, so air does pass through that spoiler to give you a little bit more downforce. And if we take a look at the back end over here, you'll say, Yosef, how do you get into the back of the Polestar 3? Well, the answer to that is not from up here. That's the backup camera, but the popper is all the way down here where your license plate is. So that's something that's going to get quite dirty when you're driving around. You get used to getting your fingers dirty when you're opening it, but it is hidden well, and you wouldn't otherwise notice that it's even there if you didn't know about it. Moving to the interior of the Polestar 3, again, we pull on that electronic popper to open the door, and you're greeted with an absolutely beautiful door card. I love all the different materials that we've got here. Even this top section, there are two different textures for the top of the door card, which is really unique and cool. And you'll notice you've got this plastic trim piece over here that's backlit, and it says Bowers & Wilkins because, of course, this model has all of the features and the upgraded sound system, which sounds phenomenal. And if you take a look a little lower down, you've got this leather, very soft touch over here, and the beautiful sort of white quartz look to it, and a lot of nice stitching, a very soft armrest over here, and you've got the physical buttons to open the windows and open the door. The one interesting thing about them is this whole piece is not the one that opens the windows. It's this tiny little piece at the end that opens and closes the windows. And a little bit of cost cutting has been done here because you may notice there are only two switches to open the windows. If you want to open the back ones, you've got to press over here and it toggles between the front and the back controls. And of course, you've got your lock and unlock buttons. That is a little frustrating. It would have been nice to have 4 full buttons over there for opening all the windows so you can open them all at once, but unfortunately, that is what we have. And to open the door, all you do is pull on that lever and that opens up the Polestar 3 door. And if we take a look a little bit lower down, you've got a really nice sized door pocket over here. The most exciting thing is this really nice speaker grate. It's metal, it's not plastic. That's a very high quality feeling and looking speaker grate. And of course it says Bowers & Wilkins, so it just adds a little bit more drama and excitement. That is how every luxury vehicle should come when you've got a premium sound system. No plastic nonsense. Give me a real metal speaker grate. Polestar has done it right here. Even the tweeter at the top, which is normally plastic and ugly and just sort of black and cheap, Polestar has given you a metal speaker grate there too, and it looks really nice. Moving on to the seats of the Polestar 3. Now, this is very special because not only do you have this two-tone material, the headrest is in this kind of charcoal dark gray, and you've got Polestar 3 written over here with some information about, you know, where this Napa leather was traced and the fact that it was done in a very nice eco-friendly way. But you also have so much design with the seats. This Napa leather is so plush and so soft, and I love all the little perforations in there and the designs. It may be hard to see on camera, but you've got these little geometric designs peppered in there as well, which just looks very, very cool. And you've got a lot of adjustment here for the seats. Of course, the adjustment is done through this little button on the side, which is something that works really well, but I think didn't need to be reinvented. It would have been cool to break that up so we can have all the different features for adjusting the seats separately. But if you press on it, it takes you into the driver's menu and you get to have all those features that you can play around with. And it's got massage seats, which is a really nice thing to have. But overall, the design of the seats are really cool. And you've got these little small metal details in over here, and Bowers and Wilkins little symbol over there as well, because in these headrests, they are functional. You actually have speakers hidden inside them. So it just adds to the drama and allows you to have a much better listening experience when you're driving around. Sitting behind the driver's seat of the Polestar 3 and taking a look at the steering wheel, we're greeted with a really beautiful steering wheel. I love the way this thing is designed. It's very nice and soft. It's not too thick of a steering wheel here, but you've got some really nice stitching. You've got, again, a lot of really nice materials. You've got metal going around here. You've got a little piece of metal sticking out there and some gloss black plastic, but you also have these, well, capacitive kind of touch type buttons, and we'll talk about that in a second, but they do look really nice here, I have to say. And you have a really nice screen behind you, and of course you've got this really nice sporty marker for knowing when the steering wheel is straight, which is an obvious thing when you're getting a sports car, but not obvious when you're getting a luxury performance electric SUV. So well done for Polestar with that, and I really like the Polestar logo over here. It looks very high quality. Now I want to talk about these buttons because yes, they are kind of one big physical button, but they are unlabeled, and there's a benefit and a big drawback to that. The benefit is you can have lots of different functions going on over here and they can do different things. The drawback is you don't always know what they're doing, so you have to really figure that out and play around with the infotainment system, and eventually you get used to it. But it's a bit of a learning curve if you're getting into this as a first time, but it is really cool that they look kind of floating on the steering wheel. That just adds a little bit of drama. Now, if we take a look at the screen over here, the driver's display, it's a small screen, but it gives you a lot of customizability in there, and that's not something you would expect. I mean, if you take a look at the Volkswagen ID4 or ID Buzz, they also have very small screens, and they're also funky, cool electric vehicles, but you can't get a full screen map in there. Here on the Polestar 3 you can, and you've got this option which shows you all the vehicles around you, which is kind of cool. And of course you can just have a regular gauge cluster. So overall, very nice. I love the customizability in there. And just to show you something, when you put your finger and just touch over one of the buttons, it'll tell you what the button is about to do. So this shows me that I can cycle through all the different menus over here, and if I wanted to use the voice activation, I just press on this button. So even though they are unlabeled, you do have a bit of a shortcut or a cheat sheet over there that kind of helps you figure out what it's for. Now, taking a look behind the steering column, you'll notice that we've got these stalks that stick out. This is a very multifunction stalk. You've got all your wiper controls back here, your turn signal, and well, it's gloss black plastic. So that's gonna get a lot of fingerprints as you're driving around. But one of the interesting things about the turn signal is it's kind of like BMW's old system, where if you put the turn signal on, it just goes back to its normal state, the neutral position. So to cancel, you have to just touch it up a little bit, and you might accidentally turn the other one on, and then you're getting in this game of turning on your turn signals nonstop, and you're like, how do I cancel it? And it infuriates everyone around you. Why, Polestar, did you have to put that in and not just a regular turn signal? That I don't know, but it does look very nice. There's a lot of design that's gone into this turn signal, so that looks really cool. And the stalk coming off over here on the right of the steering wheel is your drive mode selector. So you get into drive, reverse, neutral, park by using this stalk, which is very nice. I do like the column shifters when it comes to electric vehicles because it sort of cleans up the area over here and you don't have any weird way of doing it. It's very natural just to have your hand over here. So very cool design feature. And generally, I love the design of the interior here. Look at the vents. You've got this really nice open grain wood and very high quality feeling metal little adjusters over here. And that just adds so much to the experience. So many other luxury vehicles, they give you cool design, but then when you go to touch these high touch points like the air vents, they just fall short. It's cheap plastic. Polestar is giving us really, really nice materials over there, even though it's not something that's super important. And of course, you've got a heads-up display over here as well. I'll zoom in. You've got a lot of information, full color, fully adjustable as well, which looks great. And probably the pièce de résistance over here is the Bowers & Wilkins speaker. You've got this beautiful tweeter sitting on the top of the dashboard, and it just adds so much drama and personality to this thing. It looks like a very, very expensive piece of equipment, and that's because it is. It's a $5,500 option. And is it worth it? Well, that depends if you're an audiophile or not, but the sound system is incredible and it looks really nice over there. Taking a look at the infotainment system, you've got a really nice tablet design over here. It's quite large and very reminiscent of a Tesla, just shifted vertically instead of horizontally. And overall, it's very intuitive and it's responsive, and you've got Google Maps that's kind of built in as the native system, so you get all the information that you need from Google. And the cool thing about it too is when you're going somewhere, you put a destination in, it'll tell you how much range you will have at the end of your destination and kind of plot out for you where all the charging stations are, which is really cool. And to get all of your menu related stuff, you've got these dedicated touch sensitive sections over here that are part of the screen. Your home menu, of course, will give you obviously this big map, but you've got some shortcuts over here. You've got your climate controls as dedicated functions over here as well, so it makes it really easy to get to and play around with your heated steering wheel, heated seats, and ventilation as well, which works pretty seamlessly. It's a bit better actually than the native Volvo system, so that's something that I'm impressed with. You also have a shortcut here for all of your different apps, which you can customize and download others. A lot of really great stuff in here. You can play around with your performance if you'd like to over here. And there are a lot of driver adjustments that you have to do through the infotainment system because there are no physical buttons here. So if you want to adjust your mirrors, the steering wheel, or even open up the glove box, all of that gets done through this infotainment system. You'll see there's a button over here to open the glove box, and if we press that, it's damped really nicely. You've got a lot of felt and it looks very cool, but it would have been nice to have a physical button for that. Otherwise, everything is done through this. There are some car settings that you can play around with if you want to adjust the sound system, change the driving experience. You've got hill descent over here. You've got creep in there as well. You can change your traction control and how much power or range you want. And you've got a lot of adjustment in the suspension as well, and you can play around with the one pedal driving. So a lot of stuff that you can play around with. Obviously, it's really nice if you want to have something a bit more sporty, you can do that, or if you want to just chill and relax, easy to do that as well. You can even set a charge limit over here. So if you don't want to charge your battery all the way to 100% every time you charge it, you can set it to 80 or 70 or whatever spot in the middle you want to do. And that way it preserves the battery over time. So that's a very cool feature. Not every electric vehicle allows you to do that. And generally, you've got a lot of great controls that you can play around with. I'm not going to go into everything, but it is nice to have a lot of customizability in here. Again, pulling up the climate control menu over here, you've got some really nice graphics for showing you where everything is going, and it's pretty easy to go and put on different settings for the climate controls. But again, you do have to do a couple clicks to be able to get into the climate control menu instead of just having a physical knob or dial. You also have an air quality button over here, so it can tell you what the air quality is like outside the vehicle and inside, which is kind of cool. And all of your parking stuff can go in here as well. So if you want to set a timer for putting on the climate control when you park a car, and when you're going off to work in the morning, you want it to be nice and cool or hot, you can play around with all of that stuff in there as well. The one thing I have to say that I'm really impressed with is just the quality of the screen. The black levels are really nice. It seems like a very high quality screen, and that's something that you would expect when you're paying this much money for a vehicle. Moving down below, you've got some USB Type-C charge ports over here, which is very nice. A lot of space. It's kind of a floating center console, so you can hide a purse in there or a Kleenex box, something like that. You've also got a wireless charger over here, and that's where you put the key to go if you don't have it set up on your phone. You have a physical dial over here as well to play around with the volume, which actually feels very nicely weighted, and expensive, and you can press it to play and pause your music, which is very cool. And to go to the next track, all you do is just shift it from left and right. And I love the way they've designed the cup holders here. It's hidden behind this retractable cover, which I really like. That's always a mark of a Volvo. Volvos always have a cover for their cup holders, and I'm glad that it's continued in this Polestar 3. Two nicely sized cup holders, and of course you've got some storage in the armrest over here, and a very nice soft padded armrest for that. And one really nice touch is that you've got a menu over here if you want to bring up the camera, so you can see you've got a 360-degree view, and you can play around with the angle of the view as well, which is kind of cool. I always love getting these 3D camera systems in cars. It just looks really cool, and you can split it up over here with having the back as well, or you can put the front and that panoramic view and play around with it. So you have a lot of great features even in the camera system, not something that you see in a lot of vehicles. And when you put the car in reverse as well, you can still play around with that, and you can see your trajectory lines and everything. It's a very robust system, and probably one of the best backup cameras and camera systems that I've seen in an electric vehicle to this date, including Tesla and Mercedes. So well done, Polestar, for that. Now, if we move up here, you'll notice you've got a rimless rear view mirror, which is really nice. It just adds to the excitement over here. And I love the way we've got this little console here. Everything's put together really nicely. So many vehicles that I've been in, even Mercedes and BMWs, you try to press the little console up here and everything moves. Here, it's just so solid. And the same thing goes for this floating piece over here. Nothing moves, nothing rattles, nothing creaks. And if you take a look back here, you've got a really nice panoramic roof. It's not a sunroof, you can't open it, but it is a very nice glass roof, and it just adds to the airiness in the vehicle. Just one last comment to make about the interior. I really love the way this thing looks. I mean, Polestar has done an incredible job of giving you this kind of minimalistic look, but also giving you super high quality materials, a lot of design, a lot of character, and it just feels and looks great. Moving to the back of the Polestar 3, if we open the rear door, you'll notice that you're greeted with a very similar door card to what we saw in the front. Again, really nice materials back here. They haven't cheapened out. The exact same ones that we had in the front, we've got back here. We even have this little strip of ambient lighting, which you can see here, and the Bowers & Wilkins logo, which just looks so cool. Even when you look down here, you've got the same soft touch padding and materials that we've got for the door pulls and the window button back here, and the same beautifully designed Bowers & Wilkins speaker grate. And this is metal too. It's not like they went for plastic and just colored it silver. Nope, same quality material back here. It looks and feels great. And that's a hallmark for this vehicle. The same materials that you get in the front, you get in the back. And you've got a really nice door pocket back here. Again, really nice size. You can put a water bottle or something in there. And you've got a little bit of felt lining on the inside of the pocket just to help with the rattling around and noise. And if we take a look down here, again, we have that really nice Polestar logo on the skid plate, and that looks really nice. They haven't cheapened out back here and just given you a plastic black looking thing. And if you take a look at the seats, again, the same beautiful material that we had in the front. We don't get the speakers back here, so there's no perforation in the headrest. That's one thing to note. But again, the two-tone, you've got the really nice wording back here for Polestar 3 and telling you about the Napa leather and all of that, and the same beautiful contours and stitching and all the graphics and design that we've got for the back seats. It looks great. You've got a ton of room back here. Just look at the legroom and headroom. I know it slopes down with the roof, but outside of this pillar, you've got a really nice open space for the glass roof, and that just gives you about a foot of space back here. Again, I'm 5'7", and a lot of space for my legs, my feet. And the one thing that you'll notice too is that this seat is relatively high. In a lot of electric vehicles, because the batteries are under the seat or under the floor, you know, the floor itself is raised and there isn't a lot of room, and you end up sitting there with your knees tucked up here. Not really the case. You still have a lot of support from the seats here for being in the back seat. So well done, Polestar. The only thing that I'll note is if you're trying to put in a big car seat, or you've got kids that are kind of fighting with you to get into the back of the car, the door doesn't open super far. You don't have a giant entrance over here. It would have been nice for this to open 90 degrees. That would have been a bit more practical and easy to get into, but otherwise, really spacious, beautiful back seat area over here. Just some other cool details to note. We've got a touch panel over here, another screen that gives us our heated seats and allows you to play around with your temperatures. Got some USB Type-C ports down there at the bottom as well. And because it's an electric vehicle, there's no hump. You don't have a drivetrain going through here, a differential or anything like that. it's just flat and open, so you can truly fit 3 adults back here. And if we pull this down, you'll notice in the armrest, you've got a very nice armrest. It's very comfortable, very plush, and the same details that we have on the seat are imprinted over here as well. But you probably are thinking, where are the cup holders? Every armrest has cup holders, and they're hidden. They're over there. You just pop that out, and you've got 2 very nice, overly engineered cup holders that feel very plush and look very cool. And you just push it back in when you're done with them, and that's a really nice way of clearing up this area and allowing you to actually rest your arms on here and not have to put them in a cup holder. Moving to the cargo area of the Polestar 3, if we open up the tailgate, you'll notice that you've got quite a lot of space back here. There's a lot of room, even though this is a relatively small vehicle. Tons of space back here. You've got a little storage net to put stuff in. Of course, you've got the cargo cover that just pulls out, which is really nice. And I like the ones that retract into themselves so that they don't take up a lot of room if you want to take them out. And you've got a really clever feature here. If you're loading this in with very heavy things, all you do is press that button and the Polestar 3 actually kneels. A couple other things to mention back here. You've got a little pass-through. So if you've got some longer items, you can fold that section down and bring things through into the interior. It's a very small pass-through. It would have been great to have an entire separate section over there that we can fold down, but that's okay because back here, we've got even more storage. If we lift this up, you can actually fold it in half, and that sort of gives you a little parcel shelf. So if you want to have stuff in the lower part over here, which is a pretty deep pocket, and stuff back there, you can separate them so they don't roll around and mix, which is kind of neat. And speaking about storage, this isn't the only storage section we have. There's another compartment in the front. And if we take a look, we've got a really nice cover over here to make sure that everything stays nice and clean and organized. And you've got quite a bit of space back here. Of course, we've got our charging cables and all of the stuff that we need there, but generally, it's nice to have another little storage section over here, even though I'm pretty sure most people are not going to open this up to do groceries every time. And the last thing to mention back here is, of course, we've got a trunk close button, but we also have the lock and close button, which I really, really like. It would have been cool for them to put a Polestar 3 over there instead of just a generic car, but it is great that we have both buttons, and I really appreciate that. Okay, so how does the Polestar 3 drive? Well, let's find out. Well, first off, getting in here, I have to say I am so impressed with the quality of the materials and the build quality. That is something that totally blew me away. You go into a lot of luxury vehicles and there's a lot of cost cutting, and there's some things that are really, really nice and some things that are just not great. But when you get in here, everything just feels so solid, so well built, and the materials are just so nice. The only downside when it comes to the materials really is all the gloss black plastic that we have sort of in the center console area, because that gets scuffed up, you get fingerprints and dust, and it just kind of looks horrible after an hour of driving. But other than that, everything is really, really nice in here, and the seats are so comfortable and the visibility is pretty good, and it's a very familiar experience if you've driven any Volvo product in the past. And so that's something that is really cool. But how does it drive? It's incredibly quiet. Obviously, it's an electric vehicle, and that's one of the benefits of it, especially in a luxury vehicle. You want quiet, you want peace, you want relaxation, and honestly, the Polestar 3 really gives that to you. And I'm impressed with some of the really cool, unique features that this thing has to offer. It's very exciting to see all these little details, and the sound system, having a tweeter sitting up there, and having the Bowers and Wilkins kind of logos all over the place. It's a really, really nice place to be. And it's a very easy vehicle to drive. A lot of people get into electric vehicles and it's sort of foreign to them and it's hard to get used to, but here you've got all this adjustment when it comes to the driver assist stuff. When you want to deal with the regenerative braking, you don't have to have it always on high or never there. There's a lot of adjustability with all of that type of stuff. So getting in here and driving, it's fairly straightforward. It's very easy to modulate the throttle pedal and the brake pedal. It feels very natural to drive. A lot of vehicles, especially electric vehicles, they kind of suck you in with the regenerative braking, and it's a little jerky. It's hard to drive smoothly, but to be honest with you, the Polestar 3 does a really good job of making it easy to drive. It's easy to drive smooth, and I think your passengers and even the driver, being you'll enjoy it. It won't make you nauseous or feel sick at all. It's a very easy vehicle to drive. The only downside is not everything is very easy to figure out. And what I mean by that is most people with their conventional cars have labeled buttons, and it's very intuitive. You get in, you know exactly where everything is. Volvo and Polestar have kind of tried to reinvent the wheel, if you will. You know, go into this modern future, getting a very simplistic, minimalist interior. And part of that is getting away with not putting buttons. There are very few physical buttons in here. And so figuring out what everything does, especially these touch buttons on the steering wheel, it's definitely going to take a bit of a learning curve to get used to. But if you've driven a Tesla, you've driven anything else that's kind of minimalist, any of the modern Volvos, it'll be relatively familiar to you. So outside of that, the driving experience is really, really nice in here. I love these rimless mirrors and the fact that when you want to adjust them, they don't just adjust the interior of the mirror, you adjust the entire mirror capsule itself, which to me is just a cool detail that nobody else has. And the style in here is beautiful. You feel like you're in a luxury car. And that's something that I think sets it apart from a lot of its competitors. There's so many electric vehicles that are about this size, but to be honest with you, from my experience and what I've driven, there really aren't any that sort of give you that same posh, exciting feeling that you get from inside the Polestar 3. I mean, just the amount of materials that you've got in here compared to other vehicles it's really mind-blowing. So in terms of driving dynamics, you would probably wonder what it's like, because this still is a heavy vehicle. It is still relatively small, and it's got quite a bit of power. So how does it drive? Well, honestly, it drives really well. The air suspension is soft enough. I find that even going over bumps and just carving corners, it feels very stable and you're not bouncing around too much. It doesn't feel like a super heavy vehicle. It doesn't feel like you would expect from a typical electric vehicle, although you do have exceptional pickup. I mean, the power and performance in this thing is pretty good. It's not at the same level as the Porsche equivalent, but you do get a lot of great performance out of here, and 517 horsepower is quite a bit. And the most interesting number is the torque number. It's over 600 pound-feet of torque, so it really pulls its weight well, and it feels a lot more nimble than you would expect. So from a driving perspective, it's pretty good. It's no sports car, but you know, for what most people want, it kind of delivers a good balance between the luxury feel, the quiet comfort feeling, as well as giving you that performance when you want it. Now, that being said, it's not as relaxed and refined and comfortable as the Mercedes EQS, for example, but the suspension is tuned very nicely and I think comfortable for what most people would want. The other great thing about the driving experience is the steering wheel is very, very light. You can beef it up if you want. There is a sportier setting to it, which is also very nice. But if you want to just sit back and relax, I mean, it's so easy to drive this thing, and the seats are really comfortable. The Nappa leather just soaks you in, and it's really nice that we've got the massage seats in here as well. There are a lot of really great features that I think most luxury buyers are probably interested in. And at a price point that's probably not as high as you would expect. You know, a base model for one of these is just under $60,000. This one probably has all the options ticked, so it goes all the way up to over $90,000 US. But, you know, there's a lot of room in between. You don't have to get the highest trim level. You don't have to get all the options. There's a lot of really great middle ground that you can play around with. And for that, you're getting a lot of car for the money. One thing that I wanted to mention that is a bit of a drawback and is frustrating in my mind is Polestar has given us the old BMW system when it comes to the turn signals. And it takes a little bit of getting used to. When you put the turn signal on, it doesn't stay in its place. It kind of goes back to its neutral position, and then you have to remember that it's on. And if you want to cancel it, you can't just flick it down. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and I kind of wish they would have gone with a normal turn signal. That would have made it a little bit easier. But other than that, there really aren't a lot of drawbacks when it comes to the driving experience and the interior, and even the way this thing looks. I think it's a really good looking vehicle, and that's a lot to say from the electric market. Most electric vehicles are kind of numb and not super exciting. They're kind of generic looking because, well, they're designed by wind tunnels. And I think Polestar has done a really great job of infusing a little bit of excitement and passion and something that, you know, just allows you to feel different and unique. And that's something that I definitely look for when I'm looking for a car. So overall, what are my thoughts of the Polestar 3, and should you buy one, and is it worth your money? To be honest with you, out of the vehicles in this segment, there aren't a lot of really great options. And I think the Polestar 3 really stands out. And it's funny because a lot of people have never even heard of Polestar before. And that's a plus. You want something that's different, that's unique, that's going to stand out, especially if you're spending around $90,000 on the vehicle. And that to me is really special. So is it worth it? Absolutely. I think you've got a vehicle that not only looks great and drives really well, but gives you all the luxury amenities that you would want. And it's built exceptionally well. Everything just feels so solid. And that's what you want when you're spending a lot of money. So the Polestar 3, in my opinion, overall is a really great vehicle. Is it the best? Well, if you're looking for the most amount of range, it isn't going to be the best. There are electric vehicles that give you more range. If you want one that's going to be more efficient to drive, there will be other vehicles that will be more efficient to drive. And it's obviously not the most expensive, but it's also not the cheapest. The one thing that the Polestar 3 does really, really well, in my opinion, is it gives you that old school luxury feel. It gives you that craftsmanship. It makes you feel special when you get in there. It feels relaxing. It looks so beautiful, and it just has a different wow factor than a lot of the other modern cars that people drive nowadays. It gives you something that you just don't get anymore, and that's craftsmanship and build quality. And for that, the Polestar 3, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated electric luxury vehicles in the... So overall, those are my thoughts on the Polestar 3. Let me know if you agree with them in the comment section below. And I have to give a huge shout out to the team here at the Coral Gables Polestar showroom. Jada and the team, they are amazing people, and I'm so thankful for the ability to get this Polestar 3 to take you guys on this tour and drive it around and give you my thoughts and review. And so if you're in the area of Coral Gables, definitely go pay them a visit. Tell Jada I say hi, and hopefully you'll get yourself into a really nice Polestar 3 and you won't be disappointed. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.